I think a very interesting question. I think I'm very proud to be here as a Blue Darter. And so resonating that all the three speakers that we spoke, and of course the chairman and the earlier faculty that we heard from your institute. I think it's so, let's say, humbling and, proud feeling that I completely agree with Moshimi that we are in a best place in the world, India, not because we are Indian, but I think, I traveled 3 countries in Europe in last 3 months because part of the DHL group. And I can tell you, one example, my Thilawala here in Pune street, he accepts the QR code payment, but in Hamburg, I was given chiller, correct? Now, I think we should take pride in what we have in terms of our tech mindset, correct? And we are quite ahead. The Western world have got developed about 800 years back. The Paris buildings are 400 years old. Vatican City is 800 years old and the building still alive. And we are just, 70 years, 75 years, out of our farming land, correct? So I think we are at the best place. And today as we speak, in fact, the Blue Dart is a good indication of the economy because many investors ask me, of course, we don't disclose because it's price sensitive, but we have all the sectors, correct, going through us. International, pharma, auto, name any industry. We don't have any concentration risk, by the way. But, the ecosystem question actually connects to your question to me is this talent, correct? Shouldn't they shouldn't actually.
How do you dare to charge premium and still maintaining the productivity?
I'm coming to that, what the chairman said, what are you doing it for? Who are you doing it for? Whether it's a service industry or manufacturing, where it is going for a price, it's ultimately a customer. You and me included, correct? So I think, they heard about design thinking, agility, VUCA world, tech-enabled, AI, ML. I'll get confused, correct? But what is the crux? The crux is that for today, what the consumer really wants in the current ecosystem, are you able to provide as he or she wants, correct? When he or she wants, correct? At a price comparatively, he or she wants. So if you are able to do that in your respective organization, and if you are a talent, irrespective of which domain you come from, by the way, let me tell you, I am fan of, let's say, multitasking. While you might have, because of the programs that we have in the education system, the HR and the finance and the other domains. But I think today's talent is required to be kind of know-all. Maybe you'll be expert in one of the domains, but you are required to have views and of course agile views and the doability, kind of quotient as a talent, you will be on the top. And I think this is what I keep telling even my kids who are of your age, saying that while you have specialized in your respective domain, because that's the education system, but do you know finances? Do you know taxes? Do you know how the particular wheel functions in your company? How do you actually see the interpersonal issues? Correct? Are you able to influence the person who's listening to you, not just by your English, correct? But is it really, wanting to have dinner with you every 15 days? All of these, and I think the value system, the purpose that we talked about, I really liked what Moshmi did, correct? Globally, for DHL, I'm part of DHL, we have 3 leadership attributes. I think the 3 captions, there are 6 attributes, and they're actually defined as head, heart, and guts. In the guts, all the tech, all of the things, all the hard stuff comes in, but ultimately, head and heart, I think combined will make your technology work for the customer's requirement, and that's the period. Whatever relevant time, correct? So I always think, what's the competency that HR folks should actually speak about, correct? And I know I have been talking about 2 decades at least on the forums. I said, critical thinking for the relevant times and relevant level is the only competency. Now, what do you mean by critical thinking? If you look at some of these, let's say authors, in the US-based authors, Indian-based authors are saying, what are you today, correct? You are what your mind is, period. You are what your mind is. At students level, at chairman's level, at the beggars of the street level. So, they said, what do you mean by beggar of the street level? He said, have you gone onto the Bombay street or the signals, correct? He's got a relevant thinking at that point in time. So he knocked your, window, correct? And he looks at you, he or she, maybe a kid as well, unfortunately. What do? They play with your psyche, correct? That's a relevant thinking as a competency to get the 5 rupees, from you, and they keep observing you. And let's say, because you're also emotional person, you start behaving in a different way, though your, windshield is up. I mean, your window is up, correct?
And there are different pitches.
And what they do,
Different pitches.
looking at your behaviors, they either decide to be there for a couple of more seconds or move out to the car behind you, because they know that you are not going to move or you're going to move. So tell me, that person at the begging level, he also has a relevant thinking, and so also the chairman of the company or the president of India, correct? At that level. So I think with the technology, it is required to be a little more agile, adopting faster, but ultimately, it is what your mind is, which can't be replaced by AI. That's my ecosystem answer to start. But I think it's a big subject. I can actually go on. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Actually, when you charge premium to your customers and still you are meeting that level of customer base, obviously the entire team is charged and motivated to serve the customers, giving that kind of an experience.
I just want to complete on that, because since you asked a specific question, I do not entertain my salesperson who comes to me and my MD, because two of us together always, saying that, we are not able to sell because our price is 40% higher, correct? So we said, that's not a discussion. You are giving a reliability, peace of mind to the customer. I mean, look at my customers, correct? I'm getting my passport and I'm getting my, let's say, credit card. Let's say somebody is charging 200, of course they don't do credit card, only I do, I'm a monopolist. I don't want to be a little rude there, but still. So, I'm a customer, I say, okay, my passport is coming, which has a stamped visa from the US Embassy. Others probably will charge 200 rupees, I'm charging 400 rupees. I don't mind paying 50 rupees more even for that, to get my passport on that morning at 10:30, which I promised, correct? Yeah. I mean, you don't think about it. So I think you have to know which customer you are catering to. You don't have to get worried about the competition, by the way. If you are really delivering what you promised to your customer, in the competitive market, I think you don't have to worry about your revenue. That's what I think we have been doing for 40 years.
Customer is willing to shell out the money.
I can tell you, in fact, there are stories. People, in fact, Apple, for example, now of course it's a published data, I can talk about it. I have 100% SOW of Apple in India, 100%. And they just pay me what I ask. But I don't ask exorbitant, I ask for what I deliver, correct? Of course, with profits. So that's, I think, it's not a kind of arrogance, but I think it's a customer psyche. The talent must know when you're going into the market what the customer really wants, and are you able to really do that? Don't get complacent. Get back to your drawing room saying that, okay, am I really little, here or there? We do it every day by the day.
Great. I think.
One of the USPs of us as Blue Dart, so we have, I think, just to talk about the technology, so 35 years in the industry, so we were, let's say, ahead in terms of the mechanized processes, automated processes, digitized processes, and now it is digitalized processes. Not many people confuse, by the way, what is digitization and digitalization, correct? There is a difference, correct? So now we are digitalized, by the way. So what does it mean? It's a local app for customer, because my business is a domestic express, which has a global elements as well, which is a global local, correct? And we have global apps for employees. Now, there are three, correct? The new investments that we've done. And by the way, it appears to be one, let's say, app on the screen for every employee, but it's a huge investment behind, correct? It's a complete network. So we have something called what, Debasis has said, a career marketplace for all 600,000 employees across the globe, and particularly the white collar, because couriers can't, let's say, go there. So what it does really, I mean, and you said it, correct? I think AI was in 1953 here in India, by the way. And many of us do not know we already had AI and ML here. And what's it is? It's like a garbage in, garbage out, maybe good data in, good data out, correct? So look at what we do. I think all our 600,000 employees across the globe are now connected into one platform, HRIS, and complete JDs, complete processes. By the way, for technology to work better, just to let you know, you have to have your current processes sharp and right. You can't do otherwise correct technology. Let me tell you that as a Six Sigma person. So we have this career marketplace. So any job across the globe which is relevant to you, because your JDs are actually there on the master data lake, and the tech bot, correct, picks up the words of the job that you actually do with your experience, let's say LinkedIn profile and all that. So they pick up like ChatGPT, correct? So they pick up, and if there is any opening across the globe, and if you're a relevant candidate for that, 80% confident, you can't be 100%, it actually gets to the pop-up, saying that you could probably be fit for this job in Singapore, in Malaysia, in India, in other deals in India. We have 4 companies in India, DHL, correct? You're part of DHL. I think that's a fantastic. People are really, really very happy. Other one is a Smart Connect across 600,000 employees. In fact, even click now, you'll get the world news for all employees, by the way. So that's the second thing, it's the employee engagement thing. And third is the customer. So can I actually onboard the customer in about few hours, correct? Because we also have to do KYC, I don't want to say in 5 minutes, correct? So I think few hours, earlier it used to be 48 hours or let's say 5 days. Now we are able to onboard the customer in about 3 hours. So these are the 3 technologies, and I'll tell you what, all of these require huge work and huge investments, and a lot of young talent telling like you are working with us on that. So that's the part.
I think that I wanted to speak on behalf of our students, because I think they need to know that what allows you to render such a service excellence that still you are commanding, once again coming back to your premium price.
I think again, I think we are all customers today, correct? I mean, put yourself in a customer's shoe and ask yourself a question. Would you wait for, 3 days to get your fantastic, thing that you're, online, purchasing, correct? I mean, you want to go, let's say 50 rupees more, but let me have it 10:30 next day. A good, mobile phone or whatever these young kids are asking. You're not waiting, correct? You're a customer. So you are being compelled, they don't want a choice, by the way, to have a digitalization. You're being compelled by current consumer that you better get there, otherwise you'll get out of it. Very simple.
Great.
So I think, I would restrict it to 6 words probably. I think, many people must be aware that the multinational companies would have jargonized, this statement, but the answer is no. You can Google DHL as a group, correct? And I really love that, because in any forum that I speak about, what's my purpose? Connecting people, improving lives. It's my strategy pyramid statement across the globe, 4 to 20 countries. Connecting people, improving lives. That's my business, correct? Transportation A. What are my values? 2 words, respect and result. Well researched by McKinsey. 2 words, globally 220 countries, 600,000 employees. And challenge whether these 2 words do not cover everything, including technology. We can actually talk about that. 3 bottom lines that we work on: provider of choice, investment of choice, and employer of choice. Provider of choice is customer at the center. Investment of choice, of course, money, otherwise investors won't really look at you, our DAX and India. And employer of choice. By the way, my strategy statement for Globe, correct, for division, which is published, I can speak about it. It is quantified, 500, 10, 10. 500 is the financials, 10 is top 10 great places to work for or top employer, is the global strategy statement. And other 10 is, at any given point in time in the ecosystem, you should be 10% ahead of your competitors. Now, look at, how 3 words can actually articulate the entire organizing strategy. And respect and result, value for entire globe. So I think this is, and we have a ECS division, 3 more words, which is we are part of. That is part of e-commerce solutions globally. So we have a strategy called Limitless now, because e-commerce is booming. And within that, there are 3 words: happy employees, better customer service, more business. As simple as that. And challenges on this. And all these 3 words include everything what you name, what we spoke about since morning. The audience here is, the future talent. They are already learning, in fact, what we talked since morning, correct? Only one thing I can add to what he said, curious. Be inquisitive every day, because a lot of things happening new, around you. That is one. And I think since I'm in Pune, Maharashtra, there was this mythological statement saying that, hey, Vishwachi Maje Ghar. So I've changed that in many of my forums, saying that, hey, Vishwachi Maji Shala. The whole world is my school. So while I'm walking around, I'm, let's say, just not speaking, just observing people, I learn a lot, correct? And I believe in Omega theory, which I have been actually looking back in the hindsight, that with all the must-haves, with the technology, AI, ML will happen, and it's a must-have, you can't do anything about it. But the Omega says that if you are not able to apply that by influencing others who are human being, you're not going to be successful. Which means you will require, influencing skill, the empathy, how do you actually make people believe what you're saying is right, with all the, let's say back that you have with the technology knowledge, the mastery in your domain, but are you able to sell that so that other person really accepts it, correct? That's the crux. Today or tomorrow. Yeah, we haven't had recession for quite some time. 2008, because people generally call recession, it's actually a slowdown. Maybe some parts of the Western world, recession is, by the way, minus, correct, below the GDP growth. So we are in slowdown phase. If at all we were there earlier, correct. Of course, this JFM, we felt a little bit. So I think how do we do as HR, correct? So I think ultimately it should flow from the business. HR is not a function, by the way. Everybody is HR in the organization today. Let me also say this, correct? Not as a semantic, but it's a fact. You can't be only HR function person, correct? You have to be a human resource leader, correct? Right from MD. So I think what we look at, what's the scenarios, what's your, let's say purpose, and what are you going to actually stand for? For example, COVID, again, I can talk about my organization. While COVID first 2 months, we don't have anyone on the shop floor, no revenue, 2 months only. Then we got everyone. But as an organization, we decided that we will pay more than what they're supposed to get in the monthly salary. That's my purpose statement, correct? While we might have some, let's say, reduction in the financials, but that's the, I think, the organization's view. And if HR has a view or a chair in the board, correct, I think you should make your point, aptly clear. One example, in this company earlier, I don't want to quote, but they used to adjust the salary dates or the bonus dates, correct? But I said no. Even if there are 2 months of no revenue, we understand, but we work for 3 decades. This is a must-have expense and first be paid first. So I think, if you have a voice, make a logical statement. Otherwise, once the action is taken, you can't really do that. So I think HR should be aware of this. Of course, you should know the business to start with. You can't just make a statement. And once you know, you should be able to influence your authorities if you are not an authority, saying that this is the must because this will pay you. And I can tell you, my board has put it on a record saying that since we accepted what the management has recommended in the earlier board meeting, in spite of the financials being weak, next 2 years, we got 50% more financials and we paid 300 euros appreciation bonus to across the world employees, twice in the 2 years, correct? So these are examples, real life examples, not HR alone, it's the human resource leader, correct? What can you do for your employees if you know the business well? You have to know the business well. Thank you. I think it's a good question. I think I kind of alluded to that point, when I said when you enter, because see, you can't help because there is an elimination process, correct? Why all of these institutes and, exams and all that? Because, numerous number of, aspirants, correct? You have only limited seats either in the institutes or in the organization. So that's a pyramid. And that, compels us to have the elimination process. That's why the elimination. Otherwise, philosophically, if somebody goes to the Gurukul system that the, earlier ancient, Hindu nations had, correct? It's just a education, correct? And then they were getting into the agriculture. Now the point is that because of this system, you have to get into a particular domain, which is a required. I can't, philosophically say, oh, get into Gurukul thinking, correct? They will actually not get the jobs. But once you get there, many of us in the good organizations, we are looking at talent. Maybe 80% because you're domain expert, so you have individual contributors, specialists and all that. But ultimately, after our second or third layer, it is a talent or a leader, correct? And that is why I think when we have this, by the way, many of HR folks have agreed with me that earlier jargons like, coaching, mentoring, budding, all of that, correct? It's all mixed now. So what do? We pull a chair and have conversation on your career. If the person is really interested in organizing, is really honest about it, correct? Then you converse with that person and then say, what's going on in your mind, correct? What's your aspiration? Then you jump from one topic to another. But if you are really good, you actually find the aptitude of that person in next about at least couple of years. You can't talk about, let's say, future guaranteed, correct? So say, okay, I think you have this aptitude. if you're really interested, can you do some of these things? And you have the job opportunity in our, let's say, career marketplace format. And we move people from HR to operations. Operations, of course, finance is a little specialized, but middle level jobs, correct? We also move people from sales to operations and vice versa. I think this is happening and happening quite speedily. So for talent, that's what I said again. That's what I wanted to repeat again. While you get into an organization as a break with your domain, good. But don't really get complacent with that job itself. Be inquisitive, be curious what we said, correct? For all other functions of your organization, then you become a general manager. General manager term, it's been there for quite some time. You don't become general manager just by one specific specialization. You become general manager when you have general knowledge of the entire business. That's my opinion. Correct. So I have 40,000 people across the country delivering and picking up. But I have similarly, if you take a span of 7 or 10, I have another 3,000 supervisory level, correct? So what we realized after 35 years, that up till now, we were the monopoly, we were the market leader, we are good, even today we are good, correct? But going forward, if I don't change, so we looked at the dipstick. So I generated the data saying that, what is my current level, correct, as is. So I looked at the dipstick in terms of the issue. So that was an English language. While we speak generally because business language is English, correct, on paper. But we have 63 languages across the country. People speak in their normal language and get the job done. But to go up on the ladder, they get stuck because of this issue. So we looked at the current level. We actually measured on a rating of 5, created the data, and then we had an intervention from an expert, correct, and the renowned organization. And after about 9 months, we looked at the development, kind of assessment again. And we found that, let's say, 70% people were good. That means 30% were not good in scale of 1 to 5. I think that become 90% good. So I actually got the data generated saying that I improved by an intervention of reskilling 30%. And what's the result of that? Next year, when I had promotions within the organizations, my internal movement moved from then 30% to 55%. Don't you think it's a good data as a recalibration? That's how it happens. Provided you actually do it really, really seriously, correct? It is possible.